Call to order for the Town of St. John Town Council meeting, April 9th, 2025. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of silence?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a moment of silence, if we could kind of keep our first responders, Town of Highland Police, or Town of Highland and St. John has recognized some fallen officers. Please keep them in mind. Thank you. Roll call, Beth?
Mike Bovat,
Here?
Christian Jorgensen.
Present.
Ann Oster.
Present.
Wayne Pondinas.
Present.
Gerald Swets.
Present.
Bill Manasopoulos.
Here.
Joe Svetnoff.
Here.
And Beth Hernandez, present.
Item 4 on the agenda is our presentation from Andrews Technology. Billy?
Yeah, so there is a representative, are we ready online? Online, to present to the
Can you all hear me well? Can you see me well?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll go ahead and get started. I understand I've got about 20 minutes to take you guys through a quick run-through of the UKG Ready software and how we can help to automate the timekeeping, scheduling, leave management for all the different departments and the employees within those departments. I'm sharing my screen. Can you see the screen share that's also pulled up, says meeting agenda at the top?
We can see that.
Awesome. Okay. So we'll start by going through a quick introduction as to who we are as a company, UKG as well. If you're not familiar with Ultimate Kronos Group, we'll talk about our product line. We'll spend a few minutes going over the UKG Ready software. So again, 3 main features of the software is time and attendance management, schedules, and leave management. And then once we go through the overview, we'll even have a few minutes to show you a couple of the features for your employees as far as how they can go in, put their time off requests, submit timesheets, etc. And then we should have a few minutes to also show you some of the features for your users. These will be your supervisors, managers, administrators, your department heads who already go through, approve employees' time, set up schedules, etc. So we'll go through this in about 15 minutes. We should have a couple minutes left for questions from you guys. I know your team's seen this information as well. So anyone who's already seen this presentation, I'm sorry if it's redundant for you, but it is meant to be interactive. So don't hesitate to interrupt me if you guys do have questions on something that I'm talking about. And also thank you to the team for allowing me to be here today. While we love to be in person, I'm from Brownsburg, Indiana. I live in Florida now, so it's a bit difficult to get to Indiana as much as I want to, but I do annual client visits. City of Shelbyville is one of my customers. We also have New Haven, Andover. So next time I get around to doing client visits, if you guys are a customer of ours, then we'll be in person at that point. So moving on here, talk about Andrews Technology. We're a nationwide time and attendance company. So we partner with a company called UKG. UKG is Ultimate Kronos Group. Ultimate Kronos Group provides the leading time and attendance product in the marketplace today. And if you're not familiar with UKG, they're the world's largest private sector company. So Andrews Technology, we've been in operation since 2000. We partner with UKG to provide time clock software in the public sector space. So all of our clients are cities, towns, counties, school districts throughout the country. We are UKG's top business partner. We won that award last year, and in a couple weeks, I'm actually going to the partner conference for UKG, and we're hoping to win the Business Partner of the Year award yet again this year. So we are the vendor. We do all of our in-house implementation, ongoing support, account management. UKG is the product line that we provide. A couple things that we like to mention that separate us from other time clock companies. First thing, support. We understand support is important when you're trying to process payroll for all of your employees. You have to pay people on time. Therefore, if you're working with a software that's now going to collect all of your time and produce a file that contains all of the hours and work accrual balances for your employees that then imports right into payroll, you need to be able to reach out to a vendor that can answer the phone right away, even weekends, holidays. Our support is 24/7, 365. We never outsource our support, and every time you call in, our support team answers in an average of 13 seconds. The support is unlimited. It's going to be available for all of your users, so your supervisors, managers, administrators. And at our end, we're going to know what user access these supervisors have, to where only certain individuals from your team can call in and make policy changes, as where to any of your supervisors can call in and ask for assistance with putting together reports, etc. So definitely important to mention our 24/7 support. We also offer unlimited training. That's going to be during the implementation process. We'll give your users as many training sessions as they need. We'll do them via Zoom, like what we're doing now virtually. We'll record them, we'll send them back to you, and you can save them, have your own video training library. After you guys are through the implementation and you're using the time and attendance software, we still offer unlimited training. I let your team know this already, but I would stay on as your account manager after the implementation process, so that way you have the same point of contact through the whole experience as a customer. If you guys have new hires coming on board, new department heads, you can reach out to me and I'll provide a designated trainer to work with them, and it's still going to be the unlimited free training. A couple other things here, fixed price implementations. What this means is for the implementation, we don't do blocks of hours saying, 30 hours cost this much money. Because we work in the public sector, we know you guys' processes. I do a lot of these meetings where we even go in front of town council to talk about our software and our products. And we know it takes a lot for your team to gather this information and present it to you. So when we come in with a price for implementation, that's based on the scope of work. How many employees do you have? Do you have any time clocks, add-on modules? And regardless of the timeline it actually takes us to get you guys configured, where we want to get it done in 3 months, some clients take 4, 5, even 6 months. That implementation cost will stay the same. All right. And last thing here, software updates are going to be included. UKG Ready is a SaaS-based product, so everything is hosted within the cloud. Automatically, every 6 to 8 weeks, your software is going to receive an update. The update will include any bug fixes, any enhancements. The software is constantly adding new features. For the bigger new features, we'll have a customer newsletter that you guys will get on a monthly basis. And there's going to be a section in that newsletter that says what's new, what's fixed. And your team can read about, enhances coming out, and the bigger ones will have webinar links, so you can even join a webinar and learn about how to roll this out for your employees. So with the software updates being included, we don't ask you guys to upgrade every couple years. You're constantly being updated on the most up-to-date version of that product in time. Any questions here before I move on?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you consider that a cost savings if you get the updates?
Yeah, well, times have changed to kind of gear things more towards the cloud, but previously a lot of softwares were, we call it client hosted, or where instead of going to a web browser, your team has something installed on their servers and they go in and utilize the software that way. And those products were great because you could do a one-time purchase. It wasn't like a subscription, but then vendors would reach out every 2 to 3 years saying, hey, there's a new version. You have to pay money over again and upgrade to the new platform, and that continues. With a SaaS-based product, because they're constantly updating the platform, we'll never reach out saying, hey, you guys have to upgrade or move to a different system. You're constantly receiving those updates as they come out.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So moving on here, just some of our local references here. I think your team's been provided with some in-state references as well. As far as the client goals and objectives, this is a list of reasons why we see most customers move to automated timekeeping software. And you guys can still see my screen share where it says client goals and objectives brought up?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, of course, decreasing the payroll processing time is a big one. If you're manually collecting hours worked for employees, and of course, someone's taking the time to calculate those hours, key them into the payroll. The biggest goal of a timekeeping software is to eliminate that process. So employees now can track time within UKG. The goal of our software is to take a full town and for each department, set up the software so it works for each group's needs. So Parks and Rec is going to be a completely different setup sometimes than police or fire or public works or even admin. So we keep that in mind when we do configure a product like this, that we can keep it department specific, and some things can even be configured down to an individual level. So when it comes to time tracking, there's 3 different ways we can collect time within the product. First is by allowing employees to punch in, punch out, and that collects actual time being worked. They can punch through computers, smartphones. We have time clocks options as well. Another option for time tracking is you can allow employees to fill out online timesheets. And the third option, we see this for your salary exempt employees, sometimes for public safety, if they're using a scheduler today, we can import information from their schedule, and those can pre-populate the timesheet. We call this exception-based tracking. So if you don't require employees to punch or fill out timesheets, their timesheet can be pre-populated every pay period with an essential 40 hours. And then from there, if any exceptions or overtime or anything falls outside of that schedule, that can then be collected. So a couple different ways that we can hold time for our employees. Interface to payroll is a big one. So while we're collecting all of the hours worked for the employees, at the end of the pay period, your payroll team can export out one flat CSV file that contains, again, all of those hours worked, accrual balances as well. We'll talk about accrual tracking, and that imports directly into your Keystone payroll. Okay. We also support a bi-directional interface, and meaning if you, the town, provides an SFTP site, when you have new hires coming on board and you're putting in their employee demographic information into Keystone, we can have that automatically sync up with UKG Ready on a scheduled basis. That way you're not having to enter that information in two different systems. I'm going to pause there. Any questions on the payroll interface?
No, I think we're all good.
Awesome. Sick and vacation day tracking, another part of the software. Your employees can in real time go and see what they have in their accrual buckets. They can also request time off from those accrual buckets. If employees are requesting time off that they don't have available, the software can automatically reject those requests. Or we can also in turn forecast out future requests. If we have those rules in place on how your employees collect their sick personal vacation days, they can forecast and request off a time in the future, even though they might not have the time available today. The system will know that they should have collected those accruals by the time that they're looking to request that leave. So there's a lot we can do as far as the sick and vacation day tracking. Once those time off requests get approved by supervisors, it's going to automatically update the employees' accruals, and it's going to pre-populate on their timesheet for the future. So that's how the time off request ties into the time tracking, as well as scheduling. You see standard scheduling listed here as well. With the standard scheduling, you can copy out schedules for your employees, post them, change them as needed. For any departments that already use a scheduler, if they're happy with it, we can import that schedule information into our software. And then when employee schedules are set up, you can now get more insights via reports into, how often are your employees coming in late. If we have their schedule set up for 7 a.m. and they punch in at 7:15, you can even have the system notify you this employee has had X amount of tardies in this pay period. So notifications is another part of the software that's helpful. Reporting as well. You can now report on time, leave information, schedule information as needed. We also accommodate labor tracking, and I'll kind of explain what labor tracking is. Labor tracking is when you're tracking more than just ins and outs time for your employees. You might have employees who work in different departments on different jobs that have different pay rates. So maybe if you've got public works and they've got an emergency snow removal, even if they're only plowing for 15 minutes, maybe you're required to pay them for a minimum of 2 hours. For that particular job code, we call it in UKG Ready, we'll have that rule attached. So if your employee is only working 15 minutes, the software knows that they're still being calculated and paid for that 2 hours. Okay. And these two options up here, these are add-on features. Leave of absence module accommodates your FMLA or your extended leave tracking, to where your employees can fill out a questionnaire, see if they qualify for this extended leave. Once they do, all of their paper forms will be filled out electronically within the software, sent to HR instead of a typical supervisor. And once the employees are out, this is going to be populated on their timesheet. And when they're due back, running out of time, again, notifications, those can be triggered, letting the HR and supervisors know where that employee's at in their leave. Okay. And I'll take another pause here. Any questions over the main features of the system?
No, not this time.
Okay. Employee self-service. These are the different ways that the employees and users can interact with software, and these can be mix and match. A lot of time when we set up full towns or cities, we'll see each department really picking what's going to be best for their group of employees. There's the computer, which will show you the computer interface today, mobile applications, and time clocks. You can mix and match these methods of data collection. Maybe you require employees to punch from a time clock, but you also allow a mobile application if they want to go in and put their time off request or maybe view their timesheets. Everything that's available from a computer can also be available from a mobile app and from the self-service feature time clock. Okay. And with that, I'm going to pull over another screen share here real quick, and then I wanted to show you guys a couple of the employee features, and then we'll switch and we'll look at some of the supervisor features. And you can still see my screen share here. There's a web browser now pulled up.
You can see it.
Okay. All right, so this is what it would look like for employees who are approaching the computer. You can see here employees can punch in, punch out right from a desktop. They'll put in their credentials. Show you an example here. And this job transfer button that you see, this is that labor tracking that I just mentioned. So if your employees maybe not punching into their regular work hours, they can transfer into another job that's available for them. So you could have hundreds of jobs set up for the town. Your employee's only going to see the one set up in their employee profile. Okay. We can also just have a kiosk view, so maybe you want to require employees to actually log in before you allow them to see any of those features or punch. So let me put in my credentials here. And this is going to take me to the employee dashboard. When we set up the system, we're going to work with your team to understand what information you want to allow employees to have here, and then from there we can even allow employees to set up their own favorites, and we call these widgets. Widgets are these tiles of information. Employees can kind of play around with this to have it appear the way they want. That helps with that user acceptance. Here in my dashboard, an employee can go in and again punch in, punch out, or transfer jobs. They can go and view their timesheet. And I'm on 3 days into my pay period, so if I track back to last pay period, this employee can go in and see this full timesheet. And timesheets can be in read-only view, so they can go and view their information, but they cannot edit anything. We can allow employees to have access to something called a change request. So if the employee does want to request a change to their timesheet, they can, and this could be, adding in a punch in, a punch out, canceling time off, modifying one of their entries. So for here, March 26th, if you see there's a missing punch, this employee could request to add a punch out. We'll go back to March 26th. They can put in the time that they left, and then any sort of note. We forgot to punch. And now once they submit this over, it's not going to update here, but it's going to go to the supervisor as a request that the supervisor then has to approve before it is updated here. And as far as the submission process for the timesheets go, this timesheet's already been submitted. But if you want to allow your employees to, or if you want to require employees to submit timesheets, this is that process. And the workflow for approval can be set up to where you guys maybe have a department head is doing that first round of approvals before it gets to payroll. Sometimes there's more approvals in between. So we can customize that timesheet submission and approval workflow. Yeah. Employees can also, I mentioned the accrual balances, go in and see their accrual balances. So in my demo site, my employee has personal, sick, and vacation bucket. We can view this by hour or by day. And looking at these buckets, we can see, when our time is being accrued. We can get an audit to see what's been taken when. So they now have real-time insights into their accruals. We can see current balance, anything already scheduled, anything that's still in pending status. And then from here, we can even go and request time off. So this is how your employees can go in. They can see a calendar screen, and they would simply select the day that they want to take off. If I want to take off this Friday the 11th, I would start my request. And this already has my vacation bucket pulled up here. I can change it if needed. And employees can request full days, multiple days. We can support a partial day that would allow them to, put in a start time, end time. So maybe they just take for an appointment. Okay. And then this is going to be in pending status here once the employee submits it until the supervisor approves it. And once it's approved, the employee can get that notification it's been approved, and it's going to be populated on the timesheet. Any questions on the employee side or any of the employee features before I show you some of the supervisor options?
No, I think we're good.
Awesome. Trying to keep this as brief as possible. I know you guys have a schedule. So let me sign out here as the employee side, and we're going to log in as a supervisor. And the supervisor dashboard, it's the same as the employee side as far as the look and feels go, and the supervisor can customize their dashboard as well. So here I can see as a supervisor, I've got, first off, up here at the top, today's tasks. This is going to show the supervisor what they need to work on when they're in the system. So when I click on today's tasks, I have 25 new to-dos. A lot of these are timesheet approvals. But to show you guys, these first two that pop up, the very first one is that time off request. We just did this as Ashley together. She's looking to take off 9 to 11 a.m., 2 hours for this Friday. Here's her comment here. And then from here, the supervisor can view their accruals. They can see who else is scheduled, or we can go ahead and just approve this time off request. Okay. Same thing with the timesheet changes. Any employee who's requesting a change to the timesheet, this is how it comes over. We can see Ashley said that she left at 4 p.m. on this date. She had a missing punch. I can see her comment here, forgot to punch. And same thing here, I could open up the timesheet directly, or I could go ahead and do an approval. So the to-do items will help supervisors navigate what needs to be done. And these widgets will show information as well. Here I can see I have a bunch of timesheets waiting for my approval. So as a supervisor, it's my job to go through these timesheets, make sure the information's accurate before I approve it for it to go to the next round, which would be payroll. And supervisors can do a bulk approval if I want to take all my timesheets and approve them all at once. I'm going to scroll down a little bit and show you guys something. Notice here, this missing punch category shows that one of these employees has a missing punch. If your supervisor tries to do a bulk approval, approve everybody's timesheets, the software can flag any exceptions. An exception is anything that you waive to be, in my case, a missing punch is an exception, or an absence would be an exception. Overtime could be an exception. Here, this is saying, hey, wait, before you approve this timesheet, this employee has an incomplete time entry. So we can skip this one timesheet, approve everybody else's. And now we just have one employee that we can go into her timesheet. This is the supervisor view of the timesheet. We can clearly identify where the error is. She's got a missing punch here on the 24th. And we can now go in and make this correction. When you save a change to an employee's timesheet, this part is optional. If you do want to require a change reason code, a hard-coded choice as to why you're changing the time, you can. You can put a note, or you can simply just save the time. My demo site requires me to put in this change reason code. And once I save this and it's been completed, I can now do a one-off approval on this timesheet. Okay. So pretty straightforward on the timesheet approvals for the supervisors, and now that's out of the way. And then I didn't mention earlier with the mobile punches, if your employees are punching in, punching out from a mobile app, we have a GPS tracker to where right on the employee's timesheet here, I'm looking at this timesheet for Ashley, I can go to this ellipses here, and I can view a punch map. This is going to show me a map view, oh, maybe I went to the wrong pay period, of exactly where my employee punched from. Bear with me so I can find one. Oh, I'm going in the future, that's why. Nobody stopped me. All right. Let's try here. Punch map. All right. So this is an example of a punch map that shows exactly where the employee punched from. The mobile apps also have something called geofencing. Geofencing are circular areas we place up on the map. And if that is set up for your employees, it will the software won't accept the punch unless they're inside that allotted area. In this case here, I can see exactly where the employee punched. I can click on it to see the date and time this punch has been associated. And then if you like to be Big Brother, you can even drag and drop this little person icon to get a street view of where we punched from. I was actually in person doing a demo for Tooele School Districts, Utah. And look how pretty their view is from their building. It's insane, right? And then supervisors can go in and do their timesheet approvals, as we already saw. They can also go in and manage their schedules. They can go in, see who's scheduled to work what, and change schedules as well as needed. So if I hit this drop down here, I can see all of my employees that work in my department. I can see what they're scheduled to do. And if I want to change anything, I can just drag and drop these dates. And employees will be notified as schedule changes. As far as reports go, the software handles any report that you need when it comes to time and attendance, scheduling, leave management. We'll set up your reports for you during implementation, the information that your team wants to access on a regular basis. But the software also has a report hub built in, and this just shows you the quantity of pre-canned reports that you can run alone. So these are just on time management. All right. And one more thing I think it's important to show you guys is the actual payroll process. So while employees are punching in, punching out, they're doing their time off request, your supervisors approve those time off requests, approve and edit timesheets as needed. The goal is by the time your payroll team is ready to process this information, everything has been completed up until this point. Your payroll team, when you're ready to actually extract out that CSV file, they're going to go to this processing time tab. And when they click on it, they can see all my 23 employees have the same biweekly pay period. You can have multiple pay groups and pay periods. But when we're ready to process the payroll, it's going to take us through this checklist. The checklist is another backup to make sure everything is actually correct before we pull out that flat file. First thing that pops up, time off request, to make sure that there's no pending time off requests. In this case, there are none. So as we go down the checklist, we can mark items as complete, and then we'll move to 100% completion to payroll by the time we're done. The next item is timesheet status. 22 of my timesheets are ready for payroll, but I have one timesheet that's still in open status. So here I can click on this. Supervisor should have caught this, but now I can see Ashley Nelson, we reopened her timesheet. If payroll needs to, they can go ahead and then edit, submit, or approve the timesheet from here. If I go back to my checklist, now that that timesheet has been approved, these are all ready to go. I can move forward, mark this as complete. And scrolling down here a little bit, before you can run your payroll summary reports, you need to quickly process the records. This takes a couple seconds to run, but this is going to create all those reports that you guys need. And once you're finished processing the records, now you're able to create your payroll interface file. You'll have your Keystone bridge pulled up here. Keep in mind, we're payroll neutral is what we like to say. So we have 350 existing payroll bridges. Keystone is one of them. I know Keystone recently went through an acquisition of BSNA Technologies. If that is in your future, BSNA is actually our payroll partner. So both softwares we can work with, or any other product that accepts a file import if you move on past Keystone or BSNA. If you're for Keystone, you're ready to pull the file. You go to Actions, you hit Export. And this is going to download the CSV file, maybe somewhere to the top or the bottom of my screen. And this is going to be the same file that contains all those hours worked, accrual balances, let you know when it's completed. And this is what your team then imports into payroll. Once that file has been imported into payroll, we can go down here, mark this as complete, and the very last step is we can lock out the pay period. Once we lock the pay period, no further modifications can be made. And so now we've moved to 100% completion to payroll. And I'll kind of pause there. That was a very quick run through of what the software can accommodate. Are there any initial questions or concerns or anything that you guys would like me to discuss in more detail?
No, I think you were pretty thorough. I think that was a good presentation.
Yep.
Yeah, we usually do this in about an hour and a half, so definitely condensed. But I think your team did their due diligence. We've had many conversations. We met with the individual departments. So if any other questions do come up, please feel free to funnel them through me. We hope to take on a project with you guys. And if that's the case, our team is excellent about helping you guys move to that automation. We've done it for 25 years, not me myself. I've been 7 years with the company. But they'll help you guys with, in some situations when you're configuring a software, there's multiple options on how to set something up. So sometimes you'll say, hey, this is our goal. We'll turn around and our implementational team will say, okay, here's A, B, and C options to meet this goal. Here's the pros and cons of each. This is what we've seen other clients do as far as best practice. So our team will also help you with the setup to make sure that it's one, working for your needs, but also working for your employees and your end users as well.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time.
Have a great day.
You too, thanks. Bye.
Moving on to public comment, and I didn't see anyone signed up. Did anybody have anything to say? If not, I'd like to give the floor to our town attorney, Joseph Svetnoff.
Thank you, Mr. President. On or about February 23rd, 2025, a tragic fire destroyed a house located at 9535 Joliet Street in St. John, which was owned by Mr. Thomas Prada. After destruction of the home and scattering of dangerous debris, town administration contacted Mr. Prada on at least 3 separate occasions concerning the removal of said structure and dangerous debris. At one point, Mr. Parada had verbally agreed to execute an agreement to allow the town to go on and remove the structure and the dangerous debris. On or about March 24, 2025, upon presentation of the temporary easement and lien agreement, Mr. Parada refused to execute the document and stated that he was going to clean the property up with no completion date in sight. Then on April 1st, 2025, the town conducted an emergency hearing through its unsafe hearing authority, which was established by ordinance and allowed under Indiana code, concerning the removal of said structure and dangerous debris. The hearing was publicly advertised to comply with Indiana open door laws, even though under the unsafe building statute, the town was under no requirement to issue or give notice. At this hearing, both the building commissioner and the code enforcement officer testified and examined evidence demonstrating the dangerous condition of the real estate. The town also presented a quote provided by a demolition company to clean up the dangerous condition on the real estate as well. Upon the presentation of the evidence and the witnesses, the Unsafe Hearing Authority issued an order that same night to demolish said structure and scattered dangerous debris due to public health, safety, and welfare risks. Finally, on April 2nd, 2025, the demolition company went on to the subject real estate and performed the removal and demolition of said structure and scattered dangerous debris. That's all I have at this time.
I appreciate you commenting on that.
Sure.
Thank you. Moving on to item 6, approval of minutes. March 26, 2025, Town Council minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 7, agenda items, financial matters of the corporation. Item 1, request to purchase. There are a total of 2 requests to purchase, and the combined total of $20,352.20 for approval. Beth, would you like to comment on those RTPs?
Sure, both RTPs are for Keystone Cooperative for unleaded fuel and on-road diesel fuel.
Okay, thank you. With that, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-2. Item 2, accounts payable voucher dated April 9th, 2025, representing payment for payroll supplies, services, and equipment rendered to the town of St. John in the combined total of $947,342.52. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve payment voucher.
I second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor?
I have one, I guess, comment that I want to make. I'm going to vote, I'm opposed to this based on the 2 vouchers to Chi-Town signs for about $20,000. I don't think that sign was necessary at Joliet and 96th, so I will be voting against this.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Moving to item 8, ordinances and resolutions. A, consider ordinance 1859, an ordinance amending ordinance number 1853, an ordinance amending Article 6 of the Town of St. John Subdivision Control Ordinance entitled Stormwater Drainage and all amendments thereto, and repealing all town code sections and ordinance or parts thereof in conflict herewith on second reading. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve ordinance 1859 on second reading.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item B, consider ordinance 1860, an ordinance amending Town Code Section 2-152 entitled Emergency Medical Services Rates and Fees, and repealing all Town Code sections and ordinances or parts thereof in conflict herewith on second reading. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance 1860 on second reading.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item C, consider ordinance 1861, an ordinance amending Town Ordinance 1749 entitled an ordinance authorizing license and agreements for vendors at events, and repealing all town ordinances and code sections or parts thereof in conflict herewith on second reading. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance 1861 on second reading.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item D, consider ordinance 1862 and ordinance amending town ordinance WD-45 entitled, an ordinance authorizing an increase in the customer deposit fee for the supply of residential and/or commercial water service, and repealing all town ordinances and code sections or parts thereof in conflict herewith on second reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Would have been funnier if it was WD-40.
I thought about that. Consider, item E, consider ordinance 1863, an ordinance amending the St. John zoning ordinance and providing for a zoning change for the property development commonly known as Heartland Park expansion site on White Oak Avenue and 109th Avenue in the town of St. John, Lake County, Indiana, on second reading. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance 1865, or are we at-
63.
We're on 1863, sorry, I'm ahead of myself. Approve 1863 on second reading.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item F, consider ordinance 1865, an ordinance establishing Town Code 10, Article 7, Section 10-98, entitled Community Center Fee Schedule, and repealing all town code sections and ordinance or parts thereof in conflicts herewith on first reading. Billy, do you want to comment on this at all?
Yeah, we requested some fees for the community center. We did our research and got neighboring towns, saw what they were
As a
charging.
benchmark.
Yeah, we sat together as a group and came up with these fees.
Okay. Do I have a motion on first reading for ordinance 1865?
Motion to adopt ordinance 1865 on first reading.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I do have a question on this. Is there guidelines as far as who is allowed to rent this? Or we're going to allow this to anybody?
So it's
I'm-
open, there's different fee schedules according for
I saw the
resident-
fee schedules,
Right.
but just for example, if the St. John Republicans or the St. John Democrats or some political something wants to use this, are they able to do that, or are we restricting that?
Be pretty difficult to restrict free speech that way.
Yeah, I don't think we are,
Okay.
Jerry. No,
Just wondering, okay.
no. Do I have a motion for ordinance 1865?
So moved.
I think I,
Okay,
didn't we already do it?
Yeah.
you had the
Yeah,
motion. Do I have the second,
I had
Ann?
a second. I made the motion, she seconded.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item G, consider resolution 2025-04-9A, a resolution providing for the transfer of applications for the various funds of the town of St. John, Lake County, Indiana, for the year 2025, for the action and passage by the town council pursuant to IC 6-1, 1-18-6, civil. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to adopt resolution 2025-04-09A.
Do I have a second?
So moved.
I have a motion.
I'm second, I'm sorry.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item H, consider resolution 2025-04-09B, a resolution providing for the transfer of appropriations for the various funds of the town of St. John, Lake County, Indiana, for the year 2025 for the action and passage by the town council pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1, 1-118-6, Water District. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adopt resolution 2025-04-09B.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's for 8 and 9, isn't it?
Pardon?
It's regarded to 8 and 9, right? wells 8 and 9.
No, this is just appropriation line transfers from one category to
For
the
what?
next.
Okay,
Like just-
I didn't know if it was specifically for that, I saw it.
Yeah, this one's not wells 8 and 9.
Okay.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item I, consider Resolution 2025-04-09C, a resolution providing for the transfer of appropriations for the various funds of the town of St. John, Lake County, Indiana, for the year 2025 for the action and passage by the town council pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1, 1-18-6, water utility. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in
I have a
favor?
question on this one. Moving $7,000 over to postage, is that unusual postage, or do we know the reason why we needed to move $7,000 over to postage, over the budgeted amount?
They used to pay our utility postage out of a different line, and we decided that our utility postage license fee through the post office should come out of the postage line. It used to be paid out of like a miscellaneous line, and we felt that it was best to be paid out of the postage line.
Okay, does that apply to wastewater also then? That's why those are there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item J, consider Resolution 2025-04-09D, a resolution providing for the transfer of appropriations for the various funds of the town of St. John, Lake County, Indiana, for the year 2025, for the action and passage by the town council pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1, 1-18-6, wastewater. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adopt resolution 2025-04-09D.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item K, consider Resolution 2025-04-09E, a resolution providing for the transfer of appropriations for the various funds of the town of St. John, Lake County, Indiana, for the year 2025 for the action and passage by the town council pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1, 1-18-6, sanitary district. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adopt resolution 2025-04-09E.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 9 on the agenda, Town Council action. Consider motion to accept the conflict of interest for Matthew Easto.
So Matthew's just updating his conflict of interest for this year. He's done work for us before, and
Firefighter?
yes.
Yeah.
And in the future, if we need him to do anything, a couple of jobs here and there, we want to make sure that's up to date.
Well, very good, thank you for that, Billy. Do I have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept conflict of interest of Matthew Esto.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item B, consider motion to approve agreement with Andrews Technology for time, attendance, and scheduling solutions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item C, consider motion to approve easement agreement with NDOT.
Motion to approve the easement with NDOT.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
That's for the roundabout and on Parish, by the way.
Yeah, that land, we're getting slight easement there. Thank you. Item D, consider motion to approve unpaid internships for Cody Zurich and Christian Taneski for the year 2025. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, just for for the record.
Yes.
These two individuals are St. John residents. They are currently working on wrapping up their degree. It is in the building and planning field, so they're going to put in their hours towards their degree.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item E, consider agreement with Stryker for equipment for fire department not to exceed $538,774.68.
Motion to approve agreement with Stryker.
I second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Item F, consider acceptance of grant easement from Meta Wall Street LLC to the town of St. John for water system improvements. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to accept the easement.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's water system improvements, Wayne.
Yeah, I know. I just,
Come on.
That's good. I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Moving to item 10 on the agenda, reports and correspondence. Anything from our esteemed colleagues on the town council?
I don't know about esteemed Bell. I do have a couple of questions. In the software for payroll, what departments are we going to implement that in? I could have asked it at the time, but we were rolling along pretty good, and I didn't want to slow it down at all.
Every department will participate in the solution. If you guys recall, about a year ago, we attempted to do this with a different vendor. When we got into the implementation phase, we quickly realized that it wasn't going to work for our needs, so we separated in that agreement before any payments or anything became due, and then started the search over again. This one became highly recommended from the town of Cedar Lake. They use Andrews Technology. And we particularly like this one because, like she mentioned, they work with Keystone, and Keystone was recently bought out by BS&A, which is the system that Cedar Lake uses. So as we make that transition, this payroll solution will work for both.
Okay, and then what is we know what the monthly payment is going to be. What is our time savings, dollars and cents wise?
So each administrative assistant for each department, they keep track of the payroll for each department. So particularly Public Works is going to see the most time savings. They still clock in and out with an old-fashioned time clock, that prints. And then Tammy has to take each sheet, manually calculate the time. Then she goes into our current system and puts how many total hours they worked. So she's doing all hand calculation.
Okay.
Our office administration's not as difficult because we're 40 hours a week employees, so we're pretty cut and dry. Public safety follows the same thing, similar to what Tammy's doing, where Amy and Mandy, and I know Mike Sharp, they do extensive work to get payroll out the door. Plus, the system we're using is sunsetting. We're at our
So
final.
all the departments then are going to appreciate some savings?
Yes.
Okay.
Every department will. It will allow their administrative assistants to do actual administrative assistant work and less payroll work.
Okay.
As well as my office too, because
Right.
then when it's coming over on paper and handwritten, we have to go through it again, so.
it's all been vetted by all the departments. They've already looked
Yes.
at it.
Two meetings for public safety because they're most difficult. One meeting for all other departments, and then we've met with them 3 or 4 times from the clerk
Okay.
treasurer's
Thank
office.
you.
Eliminating human error. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Making sure everybody gets their paycheck. That's
The only thing that this one
important.
doesn't have that the one we were trying to work with originally, the onboarding aspect, the other system had like a great onboarding option. This one doesn't. But I mean, we're not going to find something. Clearly, we tried to find like the whole kit and caboodle, and
Right.
it just didn't work.
Right.
So,
Okay. Other comment I have is regarding the 9535 Joliet Street, when we took down that building and just got rid of everything and cleaned it all up. I guess my question is, did we get more than one quote, or did we just deal with somebody that we're comfortable with?
We use someone that we're comfortable with, that the town's used in the past.
Okay. And then, how was Mr. Parada notified on this?
There was a phone call and also,
Didn't you cover that, Joe?
I did.
I think he read it into.
No, you didn't have anything, you didn't say anything about Mr. Parada. I want to know how he was notified that his building was going to come down.
We didn't notify.
We didn't, okay.
We didn't notify him because we were under no duty under statute or ordinance to do so.
And that's what you explained, yes.
That's what I explained, but we did have a public notice that was
Right.
publicly advertised for everybody to see.
Okay. And then, did we authorize them to take down the garage structure as well, or did they do that on their own? I mean, the garage structure wasn't affected by the fire.
The emergency order would have covered anything and everything that would have be considered an unsafe matter that posed imminent danger or threat to the public health and general safety of the citizens around, including loose debris that could have been flying onto the railroad or into the neighbors, especially with the windstorms and in the area. We've had a few different tornadoes touching down in the area, so we wanted to make sure that we were protecting the life and safety of all individuals, and that's what the emergency order covered.
I understand, but the question was, who's determined that the garage should come down? Was that us or them?
It would have been done by the building and planning staff. It would have been evaluated by our unsafe enforcement authority, who is our building commissioner, who is very familiar with all Indiana building codes and requirements, as well as code enforcement officer who went out there.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Well put.
Thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Joe. Any other comments from the members? If not, we'll move to our town manager.
no
Billy?
reports at this time.
No reports. And our clerk treasurer, Beth? Any comments?
yes, we have our shred day, our community shred day. That's April 26th, 9 to 11 a.m. The location's been moved from Town Hall to Clark just due to the size of the event. I do want to thank the police department for doing our traffic flow map. They did a fantastic job. They do that for us every year. So we're looking forward to that. And then last night, there was the Parks Plan open house, which was well attended. We had Glenn from SEH Engineering. He was there presenting on the 40 Acres project, the amphitheater and splash pad project. And then we had American Structure Point, who headed up the 5-year master plan project. And we had Dave from Robinson. He was there to discuss Timberlane Park improvements, which is your CDBG grant that you're working on this year. And so it was a good event last night.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Beth. Any other comments? If not, move to item 11 on the agenda, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion